Hi guys, I'm Brad, and this is the Great Hollywood Rewrite with the Script Department. This is that podcast where we take a look at some of cinema and TV's most troublesome titles and have a little tinker around under the hood. Today I'm here with John. Hi John.
Hello.
And we are going to be doing the season finale, the final episode of the Great Hollywood Rewrite for this year. We're going to be back in the new year with a slightly new format and a new approach to the podcast. So watch this space for any information on that. Today we're going to be taking a look at Terminator Salvation from 2009, written by John Brancato and Michael Ferris and directed by McG. But before we fall into some plot holes that are so frustrating they'd upset Christian Bale's method acting, check us out on social. Check us out on all the good places you get your podcasts. You can now buy us a coffee. If you want to support us to make more bits of awesome content like this one, just click on the link in the description and donate to the cause. So, John, Terminator Salvation. I know I sense we may be split on this one from a few words that you just spoke to me before we jumped on here. I don't dislike this film, but I think it has its faults. Where do you fall on Terminator Salvation?
I love this film. I've become that guy on this show now where it's like everything. I've become the contrarian to everyone else. I really had so much fun with this film when it came out. I couldn't understand the backlash it was getting. I get it; it's not amazing, but Terminator has proven that it really was only successful in the hands of James Cameron. I loved every second of it, and then I was so surprised to hear the backlash, and I continued watching it, and as I got wiser as a screenwriter and all that, and years after it, I thought, okay, I kind of get certain issues with it, but I mean, surely there are bigger culprits out there in the industry that aren't getting the same hatred. Part of me thought it's easy to poke at McG and criticize him, because lots of people just aren't fans of his work. I think he gets a really bad rap for this film. I think he gets a tough time actually as a filmmaker. I watched it last year. I've seen this film so many times, like it's just burned into my head. But I watched it last year with a friend of mine, and we made we said, okay, let's go into this. Let's sit into this and let's just watch it. Let's just watch it through the eyes of everybody else who hates this. Let's try and see why people don't like it. And we couldn't. We both just had the time of our lives watching it again. And so there is a part of me that's just, I don't get it. I think the fact that everybody jumps on the twist, the halfway point, that isn't actually a twist if you have any brain in your head. It's all signposted right there in the very first scene. I think the things people gravitate towards on this, Christian Bale's outburst, the twist being ruined in the trailer, none of that has anything to do with the movie. And when I hear people actually trying to describe what they don't like about it, I don't get the hate. Like I'm getting, okay, fine, there are issues with it, but I'm just not getting like the sheer hatred that people have for it. Like, people hate this film. People say it's the worst Terminator film, worse than Terminator Genesis. I don't know how that's possible. Worse than Rise of the Machines. I don't get it. I think I don't get it. So I love this film. I'm fumbling with my words here because I'm really at a loss for. But look, I am aware it's very over the top. Christian Bale jumping off a helicopter into the sub. I mean, yeah, you've got hypothermia now, man. That's like, that submarine is, like, you're not getting into that submarine from that.
Yeah,
like,
if that submarine's hiding though, surely it's not just below the surface. Like,
it's crazy.
Like,
there is some very over the top kind of stuff that one would expect from an '80s Tony Scott film, but. I think if we saw that in a Tony Scott film, we'd applaud him. We'd say, "Wow, how great that is!" There are things in this movie that are akin to Predator, that are akin to films like the cheesy 80s stuff that we all just love quoting. And it
Mm.
does feel like this film doesn't get a fair rap. I will say this, right? I remember seeing this interview with when in the making of Transformers, Michael Bay was talking about how he went into Industrial Light and Magic to see what the team were getting up to, and he saw a guy working on this thing in the corner, and it looked amazing. And he said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! What are you doing? This isn't one of our designs. This is one of our Transformers." And he said, "No, this is for a different film." I said, "What film is this?" And he said, "This is Terminator Salvation. It's the truck that transforms into a giant walking
Mm.
robot." And he was so impressed by that he said, "Wow, we got to go back to the drawing board." And then the very next production meeting they said, "No, we got to make our Terminators or our Transformers look better because
Mm.
the stuff they're doing for Terminator Salvation looks
Yeah.
incredible." There are some great things in this movie, and people are not giving it a fair crack at the whip. So I don't know how long this episode's going to be. You tell
Okay.
me. You tell me. You tell me how.
It
What
feels like
we.
we've done. Okay, that was the Great Hollywood. No, we went. I don't think we're that split on it. I don't think we're that split on it because I watched this film. I remember watching it at the cinema, and I was really happy that it was an improvement on Terminator 3. Like, I still think it's a big improvement on Terminator 3. I always expected Terminator 3 to be in the future because it's
Yeah.
like Terminator 1. They sent one back. It was, it was smart, but it was direct. It was really direct. There wasn't too much fluff. So Terminator 1, they sent a Terminator back. Oh my God, we have to kill it or it'll kill us. Terminator 2, they sent another one back, but it's way better. And there's a Terminator trying to fight it. Great. Terminator 3, they sent another one. And it's like, no, don't just send another
Yeah.
one back that's better. Like, that isn't the way you should go with this. So going into the future for me was like, yes, I like this. And I was really excited to
And
see.
it's Marcus going into the future. He's waking up
Yeah.
in the future. Like it is trying to do new things. It is trying, like, you can tell they sat there and said, we cannot just do the same thing from before.
Mm.
And I love that. Sorry, I interrupt you, but like,
No. I think I know what you mean. I know what you mean. There is a they've done some good things. They've gone in the right direction here with this film. And I've loved seeing the future world. I'm like,
mm,
yeah, this is the beach we saw in Terminator 2, in some of the cutscenes. Like, oh look, these are the holes they hide in that we see Carl Reese in Terminator 1. Like, great, I want to see this. There are just parts of it that just really, again, I don't understand the full hatred for this film. I don't think it's that hated because it does okay on its ratings. It's not as high as the other
it's
ones.
33% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, it's 6.5 on IMDb. I guess it's not. I mean, it's not a tank, is it, on
But
IMDb?
I think it's the go-to film. Like, there's a reason why we're doing it as a finale, right? Like, it's the go-to film when you really want to, like, just say, you want to talk about duds, eh? Here's a dud. And I don't get, like, I'm in defense of this movie anyway. But
I think it's also the 200. I think it was 200 million pound price tag that also put a lot of expectation on it. So people were like, "Great, this is going to be it, the big war of tomorrow." Oh, okay, it's not quite that. We didn't have to have the full war, but it would have been nice to get a little bit more of that. I've got
I
some.
I thought, just one point on that.
Go, John.
I thought it was a very mature decision to not have him be the leader of the resistance yet. I
Mm,
loved the idea that, oh wait, no, okay, we're working towards that. Like, you could tell that there was a long-term vision for a series of films here
hmm
that could have built to something really profound or really incredible. That could have, just been this mind-blowing time warp experience, whatever, and time loop experience, whatever, and I just never got that chance to do it. I don't think it
mm,
needs to either. Actually, I think if you wanted to end it on this kind of hopeful thing, you could, because you kind of know where it's going to go next. It's going to go backwards. But I love the idea that it's not just this guy walking around barking orders at everybody. It's kind of that, but not really, because there's still this whole hierarchy above him that's saying,
mm.
learn your place, John Connor.
Yeah, I did like
Um,
that part of it. That it's sort of like, oh, he's not the boss. Oh, he's a subordinate here, and that was interesting. I did like that. I think there's four talking points that we can chew over here. So that the first one that I've got down here is the Marcus Wright storyline. I didn't dislike him. I quite like um, what's his name, Worthington. I quite like him as an actor. He can be slightly wooden, but great. He's in a Terminator film. Perfect.
You'll be right at home.
Yeah. So the audience surrogate thing they did felt a bit weird for me. The idea that it's like, oh, he doesn't know the future. We've got a chance for some exposition here because he can ask questions that we want to know the answers to. And there was quite a lot of that going on, so it felt like a bit of an exposition machine. The fact that he was sent, well, he wasn't sent from the past, that he was perfectly cryogenically frozen for however many years it was. Was it
But
15
he
years or
wasn't,
something?
was he? Though he was rebuilt. That's the way I look at it. Is
Yeah, but they
I
kept his skin and his brain and his organs and stuff, didn't they? Like there were parts of him that were still.
Yeah.
He
Oh
was
yeah,
he was a
maybe. Okay,
cyborg. He was
okay.
a
Yeah.
cyborg.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. He's
the
cyborg.
the
Yeah, yeah.
whole the whole question of did we need another Terminator thing? I don't know if we did. I don't know if we needed another TX or whatever they were. Um, that does beg the question of how do we get him in there if we're not going to do that. But it feels a bit weird that we have this unbalanced kind of. Yeah, I agree. The twist didn't ruin anything. They kill him in the past. Oh, he's awoken in the future. He's
And,
part robot at
and just
least.
to, just to say, that twist being ruined in the trailer is perfectly in keeping with a long history of spoiler heavy trailers for Terminator movies. Like
Yeah,
there's a rich tradition of James Cameron movies being ruined by by trailers.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
uh,
so I think with this post Terminator 2, the Poison Chalice for this franchise is a new gadgety thing, new gadgety robot Terminator cyborg thing, and it just for me it always falls a bit flat. It's a bit like why did they build something that could go rogue? And I know they were like, we needed empathy from you to get him in here, but it was just like, I don't know.
okay, yeah, no, that's a
They're
fair point. Yeah,
calculated machines. You know what I mean? It feels like they wouldn't necessarily. I
the
don't. I don't.
way the way I've rationalized that in my mind is that in the same way that humans accidentally built a self-aware computer, the machines in their arrogance accidentally built an empathetic machine. Like that was kind of how I always thought about it. It's like, oh, you guys have kind of screwed up too here, you
I
know.
mean, if that's they should
Like
they should be shouting that in this. If that's the
yeah, yeah,
case, they
yeah,
should be making that. They put that should be front and center. Look,
yeah.
hubris went the other
Like
way, kind of
I did
thing.
try to see. I do see this as kind of the mirror,
Mm,
like looking through the crystal ball, kind of mirror flipping of everything, where it's like it's Marcus going into the future, not literally, but he's waking up
mm,
in a different time. It's and then it's everybody's younger than they were, and it's just all this kind of like almost like this attempt to be a mirror image.
yeah.
And in the same way with the machines as well, like they're the ones that have accidentally created
Mm,
the self-aware machine now,
yeah.
so that was kind of how I looked at it. But again, I mean, yeah, a minor fix would have
Mm,
solved that. And actually, I think if there was more fandom behind this film, I think fans would have rationalized that. Like, the way
yeah.
in A New Hope, when fans have now rationalized what's the force that brought everyone together and not this coincidence and poor
Yeah.
writing,
So
blah, blah, blah. Like, I think a bit more love for this film and fans would have happily solved those issues themselves in their own
I think
minds.
it was lacking in the audience conceit here. Like
Yeah.
the people weren't filling in the gaps
Yeah.
for whatever reason. It could be just a blip in. Well, there's not one blip in the franchise history, is there? One of the blips in the
One of
franchise
the
history that
many,
people just
many
didn't
bits.
hook in with it. So the first one's the Marcus Wright storyline. Second one, the Carl Reese storyline. There was a few holes in that. Like it wasn't super clear how the machines knew him. Like, yeah, they could have left the message in the 90s, maybe. I don't know. Like,
Is there a record in Arnold Schwarzenegger's arm of
yeah, that
like
they need to say. They can't just go. Yeah, they know the history of John Connor now. So they knew his mother and they knew him because they're on record, right? They're actual people. They're not from the future sent back. They're not unregistered like people outside of the timeline. So it's like they knew about Kyle Reese,
I'm getting
and then the fact
I'm
they
getting painful flashes back to when we did Rise of the Machines here, and it's
oh
like
yeah,
this could
we're
easily
gonna write the same,
this
Phil.
could easily be 90 minutes of me trying to figure out like what's past and what's present. Go on anyway.
So with Kyle as well, the fact that they captured him without killing him, they're face scanning everyone, like they just obliterate him the second they saw him. Like these are terrifying machines. They should just have obliterated the guy. Um,
I have an
and
easy
then
fix for
and
this move for
even
that one.
then, even then, if he's number one on the kill list, right? Does causality work that way, like backwards? So they're like, we'll kill him so he can't go back in time, but rationally,
Well, yes, I
that
think it
he's
does
that's
because
already happened. Like it,
they believe that they wouldn't be sending people back to kill Sarah Connor if they didn't believe that it would Back to the Future, Marty
so yeah, it's
McFly.
the Back to the Future style
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah,
time jumps, right? But
yeah.
I mean
Like
that's
Christian Bale is going to fade out of the picture if you kill Sarah Connor. That's what they
well,
believe.
that's questionable. Like if you go through the whole thing, because the next point
Yeah.
is about how does time work?
No,
Because
I imagine.
you know,
No, I can imagine this. Right, I can imagine that there are some machines sitting around a table going, like, all right, we need, like, like you can almost have like the last days of the Nazi campaign in Germany, and it's like they're all just sitting around this in this bunker, all these robots, and they're all just there going, and like they're all thinking, okay, well, maybe if we like concentrate our troops here and concentrate ourselves, and then one guy's like, I'm still. Is the door really shut on time travel here? Like, and it's like, yeah, but we don't really know that going back will kill Sarah. Yeah, but we really don't have a choice here. We have to try everything, and so
great.
find somebody to go back. And it does feel like that, actually, that it's like the whole, like, we put so much for Terminator fans, it's entirely just the time travel mission is the big Terminator thing, right?
Yeah,
And it does feel like the more you dig into this whole thing, it does feel like just an act of desperation on the part of the machines while they're doing other stuff. Like they don't like,
yeah.
because it doesn't really feel like even the machines understand.
It's like another time travel thing. Is that what it is? It reminds me somehow of what you
Yeah,
just said. Did you ever watch the cartoon Dungeons and
yeah,
Dragons, where
yeah, yeah.
they'd been sucked through a fairground and they would just they'd go through and they were stuck in this world. Every few episodes they'd get out and then something had happened, so they'd have to get back. Oh no, John's left his coat. We're gonna have to go back. We have to go back into the fantasy world we were just trapped in, and it feels a little bit like that. Oh, another time travel. Okay, cool. So with the franchise, I think there's been a constant battle against the question whether time is a closed loop or fate is what we can make. So the headline is fate is not sealed. We can make it for ourselves, right? However, there are constant questions against that. Like, I know some of them are deleted scenes. For example, in the first Terminator, they find the arm, and the company's called Cyberdyne, and it's like, oh, hang on, is this now? Is this just fate playing out what's supposed to happen? Like, are they supposed to send someone back? And is that what there are loads of questions around whether this is just fate playing out, or that they are actually writing it
Okay,
themselves.
I'm gonna solve the time one right now for you.
Okay,
I don't have an answer to the whether time works or whatever, how that works, but I can make it work in the concept of the story.
go make it work.
The Marcus character, we're gonna make him like, I don't know how this might hold up, but we're gonna make him like the female scientist in Tenet. I don't know if have you seen Tenet?
Yeah, I
Okay.
have.
So spoilers for Tenet here, but not too many. There's this thing going on in the future, and there's all this evidence from the future being presented to us in the past. Like the female scientist, I can't remember. I don't know if she has a name in the film, but she says it's the detritus of a coming war, which is a great line.
Mhm.
That should have been a Terminator line, by the way.
That's very Terminator, isn't
That's
it?
a very Terminator line. And they keep referring to this person in the future as she. this scientist, she is doing this. She started this. She's doing it. And I kept thinking, she has to be that female scientist that we meet at the beginning. This woman experimenting with all this stuff. She's researching stuff from the future. Like she's trying to figure out like what is happening in the future. So and I always think she's inadvertently educating herself to make a discovery that she will then weaponize and send back. So it's a self-taught discovery, like in that sense. She's finding these remains and teaching herself. And I thought you could do something like that with Marcus, where Marcus is a character who has introduced the concept of time as a solution into, like, he's from the present, he wakes up in the future because he's been cryogenically frozen, and when he wakes up, he's introducing this idea to the machines, or to John Connor, that whether they believe it or not, they don't know. We can't know this until we go and try it. It's just a theory. And so this character's contribution to the film is that he's the one who puts the idea in everybody's heads, that it's like, and it doesn't have to be about trying to figure out whether or not it makes sense. It's just what, like, you have to, it's something that could work. I have a theory. The only way to prove this is to actually do it.
I like the idea that
You
they're
know?
explaining away that there are plenty of mistakes that can be made here, rather than just going, this is how it's going to work. Like I'm not sure that we've never seen it happen, so we don't know if he would Back to the Future. He would
Yeah,
Marty
yeah.
McFly disappear. We don't know because it's never been shown. So it's, for me, unless they show it, like we don't know. We have no idea
But
whether
I like
they're
the
even
idea.
sending people back and they're creating a complete alternate reality, and that, like Endgame, and theirs stays the same.
But
Like we don't.
I like the idea that it's a leap of faith,
Mm,
that, like, we don't know if this will work. It might not work, but there's hope, because that's what Rebels have. That's what Star Wars has taught us. It's, you've got to have hope, and it's I think this can be their hail. It should be treated as a Hail Mary, not as a thing to do every time you've got a problem that needs solving. Like we, when we did our Rise of the Machines rewrite, I think you proposed the idea that, oh, maybe they've sent loads of people back through different times just in case, and it's like, okay, that works if they know that that's going to work. If this is actually a proven effective strategy, then fine, let's do it. But it's like planting mouse traps all over the house because they'll work. So let's just cover our bases. But if you don't know it works, you're not going to buy loads of them, are you? And so you're going to buy one and try it out. And I feel like this is the Hail Mary. We got one last shot at this, and it needs to be built up as that. But I don't think this needs to be the movie where they do it. I think this is the movie where they introduce the concept that there is well, before he died, he was working on something, and it's,
yeah.
and.
So I have a thought on that. I want to quickly say the fourth point, because we've gone straight. We've come out the gates super quick, and we're fixing it all already. The fourth point is that the Terminators aren't that terrifying in
Yeah,
this. There's
yeah,
some great machines in it, but the T-800s, the T-600, they're just there. Like in the first couple of films, these are like totally indestructible killbots that will just, if they get within an inch of you, you're dead. And these things are like picking people up, tossing them over there. It's like, no, they just punch you through the chest, like
I like.
immediately.
I The solution that I have for that is the same. It was the solution for the Kyle Reese issue as well. I think this needs to be less a shoot 'em up film and more a, like, this is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre out in the desert.
Totally,
It's
totally.
like,
I've got a
yeah,
feel for a survival film
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. This needs
Like,
to be. You're not killing any of these.
yeah,
It's you get away from them. You lucky to live another day. You do not kill any of them.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think having the idea that they were in the earlier timelines and they didn't have the future tech to kill them, and then weirdly in this timeline they use bullets. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought they'd
yeah,
be
yeah,
using
yeah,
lasers. What
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what what's the future tech that kills them? Is it just better bullets? Is that what
I
happens?
think it's
So,
just again, my rationale for it is that they are just forced to confront this thing every day, and so you learn the strategies. And like and Kyle Reese in this, played by the late great Anton Yelkin, he he says, like they, like he kind of describes the strategies that you have to use. Like they've got bad peripheral vision or something like that, or you know, um, freeze, don't move. Its vision is based on movement.
yeah,
We'll see how
yeah.
long that lasts. But it's I don't think they do a bad job of explaining how they survive. I think the problem is they've made them far less. I still feel like, God, these guys are scary, but I think there should have been a golden rule here. No Terminators die by a human hand. Like they die because of an air raid, they die because of a napalm drop. Like you've got to be prepared to sacrifice your own men in order to wipe out that army. Like you're not going to be able to do it using a regular, using bullets. Like this war is not won
Totally,
that way. Um,
totally. It feels like there's a something's been it's been lost.
yeah,
uh there's something been lost there. So it's the idea that they can just destroy them now. I think having in this version of it, having some level of tech removed and them stranded somewhere could be a big thing here, because it brings back in the idea that they are defenseless against these relentless
prey.
monsters. Yeah, they're prey. I
No,
mean,
but
bringing in
the prey film showed how to do
bringing
that.
in the predator
Yeah, yeah,
aspect of it could be
yeah.
really smart. That they are tooling up with rolling boulders and swinging logs and all that kind of stuff. It could be quite exciting. Um, going back to the timeline aspect that we were talking about with John Connor, um, being this version of John Connor, do you think this is different to the version of John Connor that sent the original Kyle Reese back? Is this now alternate? Because if they're making changes to history, it has. If that's what happens, this must be an alternate reality to the one that, or alternate history to the one that we were given in the first film.
I don't think when I looked at Christian Bale as John Connor, I thought, yeah, that's kind of how I would expect him to look. Actually, like I didn't feel like it was a departure from the kind of grizzly, grizzly kind of character that we see in the flashbacks of the earlier movies. But I don't think they're trying to present an alternative timeline, right? I think they are just trying to join the dots, because even he gets the scar at the end that's exactly the same, and but to me it kind of syncs up okay. I mean, I see him as Christian Bale. I think the problem, and I'm going to be very careful how I phrase this, because I really like Christian Bale in this.
Hmm. Oh, he's
Uh,
good. He's good in this.
he's really good in it. He's very intense, but I kind of believe you need to be that intense. And I know it's impossible to talk about this movie without talking about the outburst that he had, but I bet you that stuff happens all the time on movie sets. And I'm sure that's happened on Avengers or something
Oh
once or
yeah,
twice, but just
totally.
you just don't hear about it. I think the problem here was that Christian Bale had just come off The Dark Knight the year before. Um, and I think in everyone's eyes, he's Batman, and nobody's looking at him as John Connor, savior of the human race.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's, I imagine that must be frustrating. I mean, the filmmakers must have seen that as well. Like, on the one hand, you're thinking, oh, we're going to make so much bank off this because The Dark Knight was like the greatest thing since sliced bread when that came out. But at the same time, you're never going to get. It's like when Chris Hemsworth does an action movie after Avengers Endgame. You're like, oh, it's Thor, and he's
Yeah.
like, the writer must be like, no, it's not. It's actually Agent What's His Face, and it's like, no, it's Thor, and I'm just watching Batman or Bruce Wayne yelling at somebody, about
I
how
think so.
we need
Yeah.
to,
I
So
I think there's a definite pigeonholing of someone when they get to that level,
yeah,
that size of character. Yeah. there's something a bit Bruce Wayne and Batman about him, and there probably always will be.
There is.
Um,
But no, Christian Bale is such a great actor that I don't see Batman when I see him on screen. Like, I do think he's such a chameleon as an actor. I think he's fantastic. However, I think in this movie, I am seeing a little bit of, because it's the voice as well. He's putting on that kind of heavy voice, a deep voice as well, to be that leader character, and to be that kind of action hero character. And it's, Christian Bale doesn't do lots of action movies when you think about it. He does, outside of Batman. I mean, unless I'm forgetting some obvious ones, but after the Dark Knight trilogy, he settled into, some more award friendly acting roles. And I think to have him be in this big action hero role right after the Dark Knight, it's like putting Daniel Craig in this big, secret agent action movie right after No Time to Die. Like, no, actually, it's great that Knives Out 2 is his next role, or his next major role anyway, because you're like, actually, that is a breath of fresh air, that is a departure. And was it a good choice for Christian Bale to do it? Maybe not, actually. Maybe not for the story. I think he's great in it, but maybe that's one of the things that creates that disconnect between this and
Maybe,
the
yeah.
earlier
I think he
films.
gives a good performance, and I think he is a good John Connor.
I love Bryce
Um,
Dallas Howard. I
yeah,
will not
she's
have. I
great.
love her in that. I thought she was
She's
much.
great.
I never fully kind of got to grips with what Claire Danes would have brought to that franchise if she had continued in that role. I think she was good in Rise of Skywalker. I keep wanting to say that. She's good in Rise of the Machines, but she played a very different. She wasn't a leader role in that film. I do get the feeling she is very much a 50-50 leadership partnership with John Connor in this film, and she's really good in it. I think she can really hold her own, and she's definitely got this kind of maternal figure role within the community that she's helping. She's a nurse. You can see her. She's kind of working almost like as a doctor, as a
I like. Yeah,
nurse
I mean,
figure to
she
them as
was.
well.
She do. It does feel like that character's rolled on.
Mm,
It does feel like they've written it out of Catherine Brewster,
mm.
now Connor, Kate Connor now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that there's a couple of things here that feel that it's important to sort of nail down before we start looking at structure of how we're going to get this out, because there has been in Rise of the Machines, they had altered time. We didn't see it happening. It was just different when they got there. So the Doomsday happened later. Judgment Day wasn't on 1997, whenever it was. It was later, and it still happened, but things were different, and it was a different future. It was a different history and a different present to the one that would have happened had they not sent the Terminator back. So we get to a future now where John isn't the leader. He's like a prophesized leader. There's a sort of like religious style prophecy surrounding him. And the leaders sort of half believe it and half don't. And that feels neither here nor there. It's like, what if this was the future is different now because of all of the three episodes that we've seen before? John's not sure. He seems so sure in this that he's almost got plot armor.
Yeah.
I stopped the machines. He could be unsure. We could find this out, that he's unsure that now with all of these changes, Doomsday happened, Judgment Day happened later. Maybe him and Kate don't get married. Maybe they're estranged. I think this has to be different. And then the leaders are like, no, you're not a prophet. Get a lot. Maybe he's an outcast in this.
See, okay. Again, I keep coming back to defend this story, right? At the end of the movie, they do this thing which is a really it's like an unspoken masterstroke in this film. The system writes him off as dead, which I think is brilliant. And that could have been a great setup to a sequel that would have allowed him to get the upper hand. The system thinks John Connor's dead because Arnold Schwarzenegger punches him in the chest, gives him a heart attack. I think he dies of a heart attack. I think, and then
He puts something through him, doesn't he? He stabs him through the heart, I think.
Oh, he stabs. Okay,
It's,
yeah, no, there
yeah,
was one moment. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. He stabs him. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, I'm remembering wrong. But anyway, you see Arnold Schwarzenegger, John Connor flatlines, right? And that all registers with Skynet that John Connor's dead because in Rise of the Machines, Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "You're dead in the future. How am I dead? I killed you."
yeah.
And I thought, when I saw Rise of the Machines, I thought, oh, that's a bit cheap. Okay, that's a bit low. You know, you can just tell they're trying to be controversial, you know, or shocking. Wow, you know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger killed him, you know. But it's like, okay, fine. It doesn't matter in this movie. But I thought, oh my god, they actually found a way to do
They
it
follow through, yeah.
where it actually works because Marcus becomes an organ donor as he was at the beginning of the film to John Connor and allows John Connor to survive, but the system thinks he's gone now, which means he can operate in almost invisibly in that world. There's no one out looking for his head now because they think they've won.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's smart writing because
Right?
well, I say it's smart writing. It's neat writing
Yeah,
because they had to get that in there for it to pay off, really.
but they didn't need to because no, I don't think anybody was saying how are they going to explain that thing from Rise of the Machines.
Well, on that rationale, it probably wouldn't happen though, because he's now been told in the past that he kills him. So he won't be like, "Oh, look, it's my buddy from
Yeah.
1988." No, he's not. 1992. He's
Was
not going to
he
do that.
was he inevitably going to be able to avoid Arnold Schwarzenegger though in this movie? Like it's not like he falls for a trap or something, you know?
But
Does
that
he?
was what he says in Terminator 3. I was chosen because of your emotional attachment. It's not like they were
Oh,
like,
maybe.
quick,
Okay.
cycling through the skins for this guy. Quick, put the one he's
Okay,
attached
so
to. Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's let's say CGI cameo in this uh does prove that Skynet knows what happened in the past. Like that they are aware that in the past Arnold Schwarzenegger told. No? Yeah, because
They must do. Yeah, they must.
yeah, they
Yeah,
must know.
they
They
are.
must
They
know like
have.
okay, bring out Arnold Schwarzenegger because he will I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
He'll recognize me. Yeah. So
yeah. I
yeah.
think so. But I think having him, you know, die in this film, whether for real or for just the sake of Skynet, is quite a good. I like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to happen at the end. We can have this earlier on, that we sort of have an idea where we have, you know, it's yeah, it happens earlier.
You know what you do?
Do you know what I mean? We're going to have a point where this needs to happen. Why not use it in this film?
If you want to go down the road of it being the survival movie, have it be that um, they think like John Connor's dead. They all think John Connor's dead at the beginning of the film, and he's not. He survived. The system thinks he's dead, and he needs to stay that way because he's only got one shot. The minute Skynet knows he's alive, it all changes again. I'm actually protecting everybody by staying off the grid, and he can become like the mentor character to Kyle Reese then. And you center the film around Kyle Reese, young Kyle Reese, trying to make his way across. And along the way, they meet somebody who's I don't know, and it's John Connor, and it's which is kind of what
Yeah.
happens, isn't it? No.
So you're kind of putting Marcus. You're swapping Marcus and John around, really. There is. Do you know
Okay,
what I mean? So
okay. I have a question.
I like the idea. We could open on a massive battle, and then we didn't get like a massive battle, did we?
I've got
And
a
you get
question
the
for you.
impression.
No. Sorry, just one thing before we go forward.
Yeah.
Do you want John Connor? Do we want John Connor to be like this? In Saving Private Ryan, they're not. Eisenhower isn't there next to Tom Hanks in half the scenes, is he? You know, he's not. You don't meet the leader of the. You don't meet the commander. You know, in Gladiator, or not Gladiator, in Rome, the TV series. You know, like the low ranking soldiers or even the generals or whatever, they're not meeting Caesar every 5 minutes, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
in this case, I know John Connor's the leader of a rebellion, so it's not going to be a massive army. But again, like in Andor, it's not like he's not meeting Mon Mothma every 2 minutes, you know? Um, so should this be a show about John Connor? Should John Connor be this kind of mythical figure out in the distance that maybe we will see on the battlefield? But you know, like, are we getting too much of John
I
Connor in
don't
this
know. I
movie?
don't know. We've got a couple of options here. We can either make it just about Carl Reese, uh, a survival film about Carl Reese, and John Connor's in it, but as a secondary character, and he's trying to get to him, or it's the John Connor and Carl Reese film where he's stranded with Carl Reese, and they're trying to get away from a Terminator.
Yeah, I feel like if you do the former, it is just what Salvation is, because it's Kyle Reese trying to get to John Connor. And John Connor is aware that Kyle Reese needs to be protected, and so he's out looking for Kyle Reese. He's like, Kyle, if you're out there, come to me, you know, that kind of thing. Um,
So why don't we make it that he's left for dead? Like everyone thinks he's dead. Skynet thinks he's dead. The rebellion thinks he's dead, and he wasn't a general in it, or he wasn't the leader. He was like Maximus Meridius in
yeah,
Gladiator. It's his story. It's he's not Caesar, but he's the one that everyone loves. Do you know what I
You do
mean?
Mad Max Fury Road, where it's like it's clearly Charlize Theron's film, but it's Mad Max. You know, Mad Max is the witness to her,
Yeah,
and you do this where it's clearly like John Connor is witnessing Kyle Reese's growth as a hero.
yeah, I like this because he'd be
Yeah,
like, "Come on, kid, you're coming with me." But the kid would have all of the, as we see that he can take out a T600 with like a bit of a lorry or whatever he does. But we has all these skills, and then there's the kind of weird reverse father son dynamic. He is his father, but
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah,
much
yeah,
younger
yeah,
than
yeah,
him,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
it could be quite a nice way to write into it. You could get some
Yeah.
really nice emotional moments between the two of them.
Okay.
So we're going to open this film with John Connor leading a charge. Something goes. Maybe we get the famous Terminator monologue from him this time, because it opens with Sarah Connor a bunch of times. Why can't it open with John Connor giving a monologue? I'm worried that this, it's the same as T3. He does the monologue there. We can get the idea that he's worried that the future is not what it was supposed to be. That all of these events have now tilted it in the favor of the machines, and they're losing, and he's losing his faith. Once we learn that, we see him get killed or pretty much wiped out. Everyone presumes he's dead. The machines think he's dead. The machines are wiping out the rebellion because they're sort of really powerful in this version of the present or the future that we're seeing. And then he ends up stranded in. I like LA as it is. I like that bit of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
film where there's all the rat runs and the people where people are living there, and I
You want to have John Connor walking down the road and being like, "I used to play here as a kid.
yeah.
I used to steal money out of an ATM
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there."
exactly. You
Like,
you could even revisit the Galleria.
yeah, yeah,
That'd
yeah.
be
Yes,
awesome.
yes, yes. Oh, yes, of
Yes.
course,
Yeah, yeah.
of course.
Maybe he's there. Maybe Carl Reese lives in the Galleria.
And
Maybe.
no, and nobody can complain because it's Terminator One. It's John Connor and Kyle Reese instead of mother and son. It's father and son. It's reversed.
Yeah, little father and big son.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got. I'd like the idea that they're stripped of weapons. Carl Reese has been surviving out there, running mostly from Terminators. He's not.
He's not killing anybody. Yeah.
He seems to be. Maybe he takes a few out or stops them or traps them or whatever. But I don't think, like you say, we should have an untrained teenager killing these Terminators. Like he would just be. cheekily confusing them or trapping them or whatever. Like he will have, zip lines from here to there, and the Terminators can't get him. And he'll have like a cheeky
and you
method of
and
escaping.
you can have John Connor. You can have Kyle saying like, "No one's ever killed a Terminator." Like, he's this naive kid. Like, no one's ever killed a Terminator, and he's like, "I've killed a Terminator."
It's like I've killed thousands of Terminators. Just get me my plasma
No,
rifle.
no, no. But he's like,
Yeah,
actually, I have killed a Terminator, literally, when I was a kid.
yeah,
And he's like, I don't. That doesn't make. And he's like, just forget about it. And
yes,
and it's like, do you think I'll ever kill a Terminator someday? And this is what you do. Okay, I'm on to something here. As cheesy as this sounds, you have Kyle go, Do you think one day I'll be able to kill a Terminator? And then you have him saying, no. I know you're never gonna kill a Terminator.
yes,
Because he doesn't. And then you have Kyle prove everybody wrong at the end, and you kill the Terminator that's chasing them.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's
Nice.
and he's actually broken his destiny, which is your destiny is to die at the hands of a Terminator. And he's like, I'm not gonna fucking die at the hands of a Terminator.
Right, nice. I like this. I like that. I like that we've
Yeah,
got this weird dynamic between
yeah.
father and son. I think that's working well. Um, Marcus Wright, what we're going to do with that guy? Because I think he's difficult to change. So if we have him just be someone, someone they've captured and changed in the future, maybe that could be a thing. And he hasn't got the being cryogenically frozen and rebuilt, because I think that makes it a bit clunky somehow. Because yeah, we've got an audience surrogate, but we've never really had to have one before outside of the protagonist in this.
I think um if we're going down that road of like the Mad Max Fury Road kind of journey, being pursued by an enemy, prey, predator, etc., etc., I don't know if there's room for him because then it's basically a bunch of lads out on a road trip, and I feel like that's going to get boring very quickly. And I don't know what they're talking about, and I don't know what their relationship dynamic is going to be. Um, I could imagine that they've captured a prisoner early on, and it's this half human, half cyborg thing, and they need to bring him to. Like you could have John Connor saying, "I know somebody who can help," and it turns out it's Kate,
Yeah,
and they've had and Kate's like, "Who are you?" Or something. I don't know, or it could
this
be
is
like,
what
"John, you're
I
still
told you
alive,"
never.
like
I
yeah,
told
or
you never to come back,
yeah,
kind of
that kind of
thing.
thing, whatever. Or it's like, you shouldn't have come here. We made an agreement for the good of our child. You were going to stay dead. That kind of thing. Yeah, that's what you do. She's pregnant with a child, and it's like, look,
Or what if their child is John
yeah,
Junior, and that's the John Connor
that's the
that's
Futurama thing, isn't it? Where when Fry looks up his brother and all that, and he keeps thinking his brother stole his dreams and his quotes, and it turns out it's not. It's his nephew who looked up to his uncle Fry, and it brings
yeah.
tears to my eyes every time I watch that episode. Yeah, you could do something like that. But yeah, where it's not this. It's the wrong John. Um, Maybe they learned that. Maybe they realized actually this was never meant to be. It was never meant to be me. It was meant to be uh, my son. But I feel like that's just kicking the can down the road as well, where it's
Yeah,
like
I think
it's
yeah,
too many
it's a pretty long
sons.
franchise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that, but it was meant to be her son. And it's like, so I think it's simple. For the good of our unborn child, you need to stay dead, because if Skynet gets wind that you're alive, that's it. Like, they're going to come for us again. They're not coming for us. There hasn't been an attack in 2 years because they don't consider us a threat. And I like the idea that machines should be thinking logically and practically. And while I get the idea you want to wipe out civilization, you don't need to actually exterminate every single human being. I think we've talked about this before. If there's an ant infestation in your house, you don't set out to destroy every ant on the planet. You just need to get rid of the thing that's a threat to your space, um, and I know it's a strange comparison, but you get the idea, and I think it's the
You
same.
like the ant comparison, don't you? That's not
I
the
made
first
it.
time you've
Yeah,
used
I think I made it in the last Terminator
it.
one. But you don't need to kill every human being for Skynet to be safe. You just need to make sure that humanity is oppressed enough, because it doesn't logically make sense to exert resources, et cetera, blah blah blah. And so I think there's something to be said for we are able to survive because they think you're dead, and now you've come back and you brought this thing with you, and it's like, yeah, but it's important. Look, it's happening. The thing I said would happen is now happening. They're making human robots. And well, if that's what's happening, and look at this kid I found. His name is Kyle. He brought me a human robot. Like, and then
Yeah.
and you've Kate going, oh my god, it's happening. Everything that you said is happening. I
So
don't know. I think you could go
so
down
so
that road.
so, so with the with this actually, I've realised there's no bad guy in this.
The
We don't
bad the
really have a we
I,
don't really have a bad guy.
I think your bad guy is a nameless Terminator robot that is just,
That's what I was going to
yeah,
say.
it's just one, like
We're
in
going to
the same way
have
in Prey. Like, it's just, I
yeah.
think Prey was so good.
I
It's just a
I
nameless
was totally
predator.
going to talk
Yeah,
about Prey.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think we should have a large part of the film these two stranded out somewhere, and there's a Terminator tracking them, and they are they it detects them, they hide, they get away from you can imagine the frustration of an army general or lieutenant who's had endless firepower and killed thousands of these things with the right weapon, now being stuck by one robot, and that is the one that's threatening them. And it could be it's a T800. I don't know if we need the 600
But
800 thing.
I didn't go to the one that Kyle Reese strings up at the beginning. It's like
Hmm.
it's like it looks like something out of a horror movie.
Oh yeah, that they are pretty. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not just like this perfect chrome skeleton. It's like this rust bucket of a thing, and it's like it when it stomps, it's like a T Rex. There's nothing
yeah.
really elegant about it. It's
I
just big
think
and heavy and
I
clunky.
haven't googled this, but I think I remember that one's Terry Crews.
What?
From the Terry Crews, from the Expendables.
Yeah.
I think because he's in it for about half a second at the beginning. He's just a dead soldier, and it's like, why is Terry Crews there? And I think if I remember correctly, he's in the T600.
Oh, he does the mocap or something like that for it,
Well,
or
it's quite a big thing.
yeah, yeah,
I
he's in the
think
suit.
some of it's
That's mind blowing.
practical and is inside of it. I think it is. I think
See,
it is.
isn't that another reason why this movie's so great? The great Terry Crews from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Expendables is in Terminator. I love it. I love it. Love it to bits. Um, I would do
Oh,
something like
hang
that,
on.
yeah, where it's
I don't quote me on that. I need to Google that. But yeah.
it's fine.
I think yeah.
He'll always be a Terminator now in my mind. But I love that idea. I love the idea of that. It's not a special Terminator. It's not this thing that was. Again, it's the mirror flip. We needed to send our absolute top tech back to the past, and it's like in the future, it's just this rusty thing where if it rains long enough, it'll destroy him. And you could even do that where it's like, actually, these things are pretty shit with water. I've sworn once already. I'm
No,
going to swear again.
no, we've seen them walking out the sea. No, we
Yeah,
can't.
but
We
not
can't.
this one though. Like, this is the real rust bucket, and it is still such a pain in their arse.
But you can imagine it'd be so Predator-like. It could be repairing itself. You could have cutscenes of it
Yes,
fixing
yeah.
its leg, and
Breaking
that'd
something out of a
be.
car, like out of an old burnt out car, and
Oh yeah.
making something for its leg or something. Like, you could really do some fun with that. And where this is like a really adaptable machine, and it doesn't need to
I like
disguise
this.
it.
I
It
like
doesn't need
this.
to disguise itself, because so instead it relies on other things instead. Like, it will break off its leg or its arm to repair its leg because it only needs one arm to kill you. That kind of thing. You could imagine something like that happening, and it doesn't have to create any illusion. You could imagine that in the previous Terminator movies, there's like this protocol where you need to disguise yourself. You cannot allow yourself to be discovered as a thing from the future, because if they get scared, the humans get scared about what might be in the future, they might not build us. You could imagine
Hmm.
something like that. Whereas here, it's just go nuts, do your thing, and
So if we plug this into a structure, we've got first act. big battle. John, loss of faith, death, kind of death, not quite dying, and stranded in LA, finding Kyle. The second act, or the first half of the second act, is them running and trying to get away from this thing. Maybe the vast majority of the film is about that. Maybe this is a desert survival film, or a dystopian survival film. Are we building to a big cyber Skynet destroying finale here, or is this an episode towards that?
I
Are
think
we building up?
I think you need a big bang at the end,
Hmm.
and I think there is room for it. I would have end of Act Two. There's some chaotic showdown, and you could have it be where that robot gets killed, that Terminator does get killed, but not by John Connor, by Kate and her men, who have come out to wonder what the disturbance is, or to because they've been tracking Kyle. Kyle, like they've seen Kyle from afar. Or they've seen they've been following the damage or the destruction, and it's not John that saves the day. It's Kate, and then um, and then they're brought in. And Act Three then is we got to prepare for this big assault, and it could be a thing where actually the thing that Kyle has been carrying in his rucksack is the thing we need to be able to do what we need, or Kyle has knowledge that we need, and in doing so, John Connor is almost like having his fate renewed. Like, I was supposed to be the savior. How am I a savior when I have to pretend I'm dead? Like, everybody thinks I'm gone. And he's just listening to reruns of his mother's diaries on his headphones every night, on his crappy Sony Walkman from 1997, and then Kate is like, something's happening here, John. And by the end, John has this renewed fate.
Mm,
You could have that.
I like that. Okay, so
Um,
we need a
and
thing
yeah,
that he's holding. Like the I didn't dislike the MacGuffin in this one, which was the sine wave or whatever it was. They'd found a
yeah,
signal that blocked them.
and it was a
So there's
trap.
no,
I
yeah.
like that the machines are clever enough that it was a trap.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, yeah. So I don't mind that there was like a double fake on that. I quite like it. So they thought they'd discovered something. Could Kyle Reese think he's discovered something, or would they plant it with a little a little mall rat guy out in the sticks? He's not the big soldier at this point, is he? He's not. John hasn't taught him what he needs to know.
I like the idea that there is a trap to bring John Connor back out. John Connor's faked his death. He thinks he has one up on. Like, imagine, okay, you got Kate saying, they've left us alone for 2 years, everything's been fine. And it's like, really? Does that sound like the machines would do that? I know the machines would say, I just made my whole argument about not having to exterminate an entire species just because one is, crossed into your field. But like, you, you could, they could make that argument. Like, they're leaving us alone. You need to stay away. And then you realize, no, this was all just a fake out or to get John Connor to come out of hiding, because they know, like, yeah, they're using Kyle. And it could be, this could be the thing that spurs Kyle then later on in life to say, send me back. Like, I was a pawn for them and many people died, and now at least I can save Judgment Day from happening if you send me back.
Yeah, so Kyle would have
Mind blowing
a
idea right there. Sorry.
go go say it.
You forget Rise of the Machines. We're forgetting all those things exist, right? Have Terminator Salvation be a prequel. You think it's a sequel, and it ends up being the thing that sets up, like, actually we survive, we succeed in Terminator 2. And we all think it's a sequel, but it's not. It's the thing that starts the mission to go back.
Yeah, yeah. So I was gonna say like
Yeah.
we could totally feed into. I mean, Kyle Reese is too young though. Do
No,
you
he
know
is,
what I mean?
but you can set up, like, what I mean prequel. I mean, like, this series of
Yes. No,
stories
no. I
can
know
be
what
a
you mean.
prequel
Yeah.
series where you think this is the aftermath of Terminator 2. It's not. This is the setup to Kyle Reese going back in Terminator 1. Terminator 1 and 2 will be the sequels to this. The chronology of this story will not be. It'll be Terminator Salvation 2, let's say, and then Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, or something like
Yes,
that.
nice. I like that. I like that we're building up to the. There's this weird closed loop time thing which they have sort of control of. I like that, and I like that it's not. There are questions about it that don't need answering. I think when it gets too complicated, like it did in Genesis, for example, it's like what? What's going on here? I don't understand how time works anymore. But it's because they were trying to over explain it. I like the idea that it's like, oh no, no, look, we're just building up to that thing already know that happens and you're cool with. We're not trying to change anything here.
The thing about every Terminator movie since Terminator 2 that has made, even Terminator 2, that has dictated the writing is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, love him in these movies. But the whole reason there's two Terminators in Terminator 2 is because you had to have Schwarzenegger back. I get that. You have to. You want him back. But the whole reason they're doing it again in Terminator 3 is because, well, Schwarzenegger wants to come back. And the whole reason why they've got the whole structure of Genesis is built around explaining why Schwarzenegger has aged. And the whole structure behind, and the whole point with Dark Fate is to explain why all these, like, the poison chalice isn't Terminators going back in time or whatever. The poison chalice is Schwarzenegger having to be in every one of these movies. If you remove all of that stuff out of it, you free yourself up to just have, like, there should be a rule in this movie, which is no Schwarzenegger, no killing Terminators.
Mm.
It takes 100 men to kill one Terminator.
Yeah, I think you can kill Terminators, but
yeah.
you need the tech, you need the
Yeah.
soldiers. You can't just
people
do
have
them
to.
with
It
holes
has to
and
be for every Terminator that dies, 2 humans have to die.
Yes, yeah. They're by far stronger.
Winning this on the
There's
battlefield is not an option.
yeah,
You know.
absolutely. So I like the idea that we're going to build up to the original sending them back in time, but does that mean this film has to cover many years? Because when he goes back, so we're going to find. So that means Carl Reese will have to be a soldier already, because John teaches him to be a soldier.
I would have it be that he's discovered the teaching him to be a soldier is the journey across is the journey across California. It's the journey across Death Valley in Nevada or whatever to get to California or whatever, and they're going to find Kate. It's that's his training as a soldier. That's his, it's like The Last of Us,
Yeah,
a show that hasn't come out yet but if you played the game, it's their journey happens on the road. They're growing, their maturity
I like
happens on the road.
I think it would take a long time.
Yeah, and you could do it.
It didn't
over
have to take years.
Yeah.
It didn't have to take years, but it could take a long time. And you could imagine them coming out the other side with beards and no one understanding who they are.
You could have it be several months on the road.
Mm.
And it could also be a case where there aren't actually that many Terminators because there isn't a need for that many of them. Like everybody thinks there's just armies of skeletons running around the place. And it's like, there's not actually. And that could be a really scary thing to say. Kyle could be thinking, oh, well, what if there's Terminators? And John can be saying, there's not that many of them. That's the infuriating fact about all of this is it doesn't take that many of them to kill us. No one's able to kill them. So they're not making that many. Like, the whole thing about the Skynet is it's not going to exert itself more than it needs to crush us. And I think there's something really clever and terrifyingly clever about that threat. When
nice.
It's like that rust bucket, that thing that looks like it's about to fall apart, they're not replacing it with something new because they don't need to. That thing can still kill us from a mile away.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so I like the idea that this is going to be a bit of a survival / road film.
One thing I would introduce the idea of time as an idea, as a possible weapon that has to be included in this, because it's the thing that would have to be explored in future films then. And it is the thing that I don't think it is a missed opportunity in Salvation, which is you kind of have to talk about time, because now we're in the place where this time machine is going to get built at some point. So where's the time machine, or where's the like they're working on Skynet is working on something, we don't know what, like you've got to get a little bit more into that to make us go, oh my god, it's that thing. It's like seeing the Death Star plans in Attack of the Clones or something, like, oh
Yeah,
my god, it's
yeah, yeah.
it's that thing. And we need a little bit more of that in this film. So
Yeah. So what if, for
hmm,
example, John's denial means that he sort of believes that I'm not I don't I all because that happened in my past. I'm not going to send my dad back. I'm not going to do it. He's in denial that it has to happen. He's like, screw this. I'm not. If I ever meet my dad, I'm not sending him back. I'm not going to do it. And it gets to the point where Carl Reese makes that decision for him because he's been under the influence of the machines, and he's the one that's endangered people because he got this thing, and he wanted to deliver it to the rebellion. Is uh, for me, it start when we start to do so in the sabotage. It's like, why? I'm questioning myself now. Why do we have to have it? Why do we have to have that bit of it in there? Because if they had Carl Reese, they'll probably just kill him. Do you know what I mean? Would they use Carl
yeah,
Reese as the?
yeah, it doesn't have to be. It could be it doesn't have to be complicated. Actually, it can just be what Prey did so successfully. It's just a hunter being hunted, and uh there's no twist, there's no grand scheme. It's nothing. It's just, in the same way Mad Max wasn't about saving the human race or anything. It was just, I've just wandered in on this one little kind of scuffle that's going on here between these people, and inadvertently liberated a bunch of thirsty um, workers or slaves, or however, and it's just, I've just done some good here and I'm moving on now. And it could literally just be that. It could be John's legend. The legend of John Connor can be building up through these encounters,
Nice,
you
yeah.
know?
Well, how? So we've got a story here where we've got John and Kyle. We know how to get entangled. We know they're going to be stuck together, trying to escape one, at least one Terminator, maybe another couple of. I quite like the weird robot things we experience out there. I mean, some of them are a bit too much, but I like the idea that they're then stranded. There's one big stalker that's trying to get them, but that there are other things they have to avoid. You can imagine that it will track them for months, and they can't kill it. They can't kill it. They have to get some future, some plasma weapons or something. They have to get to the barracks or the army or whatever, and then they're going to get to. I think we need a B story of the rebellion, which is going to be
Yeah.
Kate, because we need some build up to the destruction of the machines. Do you know what I
I
mean? We
wouldn't
need.
I wouldn't have Kate being introduced until she saves the day at the end of at the end of Act 2. I would have her just be, she's someone whose path, a familiar face whose path you cross, and it's surprising because that's kind of what happens in these post-apocalyptic road movies, and it works well. Um, and I wouldn't change that, but I do think um, you could introduce the idea of them looking for the signal or thinking they've got the signal or whatever, and actually, Kyle could be the expert who knows that signal's a trap. That's not he could be somebody who has enough experience of tinkering with these machines and so on. Like, I it could be like, I found the head of a Terminator once and I tinkered with its insides or something, and it's like, but which was strange because no one's ever killed a Terminator before. And he's like, no, we've killed Terminators before. It's just we usually lose a lot more than they do when we do it. And it's and he could just have been a student of this tech in some weird way, where he's got something he can clip into a motherboard and he's able to, and it's when he's brought in this young kid, you've got Terry Crews or whoever saying, we gotta have Terry Crews in this movie.
Oh
But
yeah, totally.
But we've got, you got Kate's team saying this is okay, the signal is ready, and he's like, that's not gonna work. Where'd you get this signal? Like, no, 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 that's not gonna work. And they're like, go away,
Mm.
kid, go away, kid. And then John is like, and it's like, are you really putting your trust in this kid? And he's like,
Yes.
yes, because he's my dad. It's like,
Yeah.
like,
She's like,
like,
oh God, not
and
this
you
again.
could do a great line of that where he's like, who is this kid? He's my father. And you just have him
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
away like dead serious. And they're like,
that'd be fun.
that is the
I
worst,
like that.
you know.
Yeah, that's fun. So I'm not sure about not having the rebellion in it until later on, because I think they need to build to something, right? So we've got to have them trying to get somewhere. Yeah, they're trying to get away from the Terminator. Yes, it can be that simple, but if they're going to, we it feels like if we had a bit of a ticking clock, even if it is in a few months time, like they've got to get somewhere to stop the rebellion doing something.
See, I think they actually did it well in the movie already. I think they there is
Not this
that,
again,
no, but
John.
there is the balance between Kyle trying to make his way across with Marcus and the rebellion doing their thing. I think the problem is the puzzle pieces, like the characters in the wrong place. Like, forget Marcus, put John Connor in the place of Marcus, have Kate and co still doing their thing with the higher ups ordering them around, and then the higher everybody just
Okay,
gets wiped
okay,
out. Like, I
okay.
still think that kind of stuff
So
works.
John gets the signal
Mm.
in the big battle at the start. He sends it through to Kate. He's like, I've got it. I don't know where we are with their relationship on this, but he sends it through to Kate, and then it happens, and everyone thinks he's wiped out, but he survived. He's got his iPhone or whatever he was using to call Kate, and he's got the signal on there. And this is when, it doesn't have to be immediately, but he will eventually share this with Kyle when he can entrust him with the information. So yeah, you've got like Carl Reese saying, "Shit, this isn't what you think it is. We have got to get over to your guys." And he's like, "That's going to take 7 to 8 weeks to walk over there." He's like, "We need to go like now. This is going to end the war, and we're going to lose." So their mission is to evade this Terminator, figure out if they can kill it. All the time, the B story is that the rebellion are like building up. They're like, "Okay, we've got this thing. We're gonna get all the soldiers ready, send everyone we've got to this one spot," and completely falling for the ruse, and they have to get over there to stop them.
So we're essentially pitching them 1917.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
We've got to
yeah.
stop this attack. Perfect, love it. However, I think this needs to be a discovery that happens maybe midway through the film. I think at the beginning, prologue of the film, John Connor meets his end. We don't quite know what he was doing with Kate, sending the message or whatever, but he's presumed dead. Um, he ends up meeting John Connor, and they head out on the road. There's,
Kyle
oh,
Reese.
sorry, Kyle Reese, and then it can be revealed at the end of Act One, or at the end of Act One, they're forced to just work together, and he can discover who this kid is, or something like that. And it's like, oh, you're Kyle. Okay, I need to actually protect you now. Because I would imagine that John Connor at that point is very much saying, I need to stay off the grid. I can't stay with people. If I come into contact with people and Skynet learns who I am, every one of them becomes a target. Now, granted, they're going to kill you anyway if they see you, but like, they're not actively hunting you down, but they will hunt you down if they know you are with me. And so there needs to be like this, like, I can't go to the people I love anymore because of that. So when Kyle says, this is not what you think it is, like, we have to go there. You have to, look, you don't have to go, but you got to tell me where I need to go. And then he's like, look, I'll go with you. I have to, like, and then you're not going to make it on your own. And it's this reluctance to go back to the base. It's reluctance to go back to his unit. I think
Yeah,
that,
so he's
yeah,
he's lost in the desert. He's lost in the
yeah,
desert. I know it's going to be a city, but the idea of him being lost in the he's lost his faith. He's not going to go back. He's like, I've given them what they need. I'm not going to go back. It's going to endanger everyone. Okay, great. And then halfway through, in a Mr. Miyagi moment, when he's teaching him how to be the soldier, he confides in him that this is what I sent. This is what's going to win the war. And he's like, it ain't going to win the war. We need to get out of here. I mean, you could almost imagine at some point they're coexisting with this T600 in the wasteland.
yeah,
They'd have a name for it, like
yeah,
Zeke or
yeah, yeah,
whatever, and they're
yeah.
like, "Where's Zeke today? Oh, he's off in the canyon, so we've probably got an hour before we have to move." You can imagine them coexisting.
I can imagine a great scene where they're on a cliff looking down with some broken binoculars and they see a landmine just blow up. And it's like, okay, yeah, he's about 10 miles away. We've got
Yeah, and it
about,
didn't
yeah.
touch him.
No,
It
no, but
just
but it's like
didn't
they know
touch
it's not
him.
going to kill him, but it's just this is their way of, or they've got a flare system set up or whatever, like where it's Ron setting booby traps to try and kill him, which they know is not going to work, because this guy could like rebuild a car out of like from nothing if they like this is he they're just creating alarms to know how far away he is. Like it could be like the Jaws and the yellow drums in Jaws, where it's almost like the drums are telling you where the shark
Perfect.
is, even
Great.
if you don't
So
know.
they're
Yeah,
living out there.
yeah.
Great, great. Um, so then they spend the next half of the so that's the twist. Second half in the middle of the second act. Then they spend the next half getting back to tell the rebellion that they're doing it wrong. Carl Reese has got a counter for this thing. He knows this stuff because he's been playing with the Terminator's parts and things that he's found out in the scrubland. He's like, no, you can use this to your you can use this. You just need to we need to tell them so they can actually switch it round, destroy. What do they say? Smash the there was a line. We'd smash their something defenses. They do that. They get to the point where I think he's describing. Carl Reese is describing what happened. He's like, oh, we'd smashed their defenses. We were winning, and then we found out they'd sent one back. We just do that. We lead up to that moment. They smash their defenses by switching this code. They get it in the last minute. They've got all of these personnel heading there to their deaths until they switch it and they freeze whatever they need to freeze. We don't have to get the MacGuffin solidly right in this conversation. That'd be if we were actually going to write it. I think they switch the signal, get in and smash it, and then they figure out that John knows what's happening the second they open the door, and there's a fizzing machine with a bit of a hole in the ground, and he's like, oh, it's a temporal such and such, and it's like, what? And it's like, check it out, go and have a look, and they're like, yeah, they sent the Terminator back in time. And then he looks at Kyle, and that's the end. it could
I
it could work. It could work quite well as a loop.
I think you need one twist in there to just blow people's minds. This is a franchise that plays with time travel. Westworld showed us the kind of mind-blowing twists you can have with time, your perception of time and what you think is past, what you think is present, what you think is, people's experiences of time and so on. I would love to see something in there where uh I don't know, someone is not who they say they are, or there's like this concealing of knowledge, like, or just this thing where someone's been able, like even John has been able to kind of weaponize his knowledge of what's going to happen or something. I don't know. I don't know how that would work, but like, and just idea off the top of my head, and this is not what I would say do, but just as an example of what I'm thinking. Um, it turns out he is from the future, from a further future, and he sent himself back to protect Kyle in this moment. Like
Okay,
something like that, where it's just, how do you know this? Like, how have you? And it's like, you've done this before, haven't you? And you just like, there's just this hint, or maybe we do this, I don't know, where it's just, he knows everything, and it's like, yeah, you're not going back yet, but you will one day. And,
okay.
so
I
you
don't.
get to play with the time, you get to introduce the time stuff, but it's not Kyle's moment just yet. But Kyle is
Yeah,
it's
I quite like that. I mean, how do we do that though without
you know
them finding the time machine kind of thing? Do you know? Like, and if they find the time machine, then the Terminator's been sent back,
you don't even
and
have
they
to
would have to send him
you
back.
don't even have to do it. It could just you don't have to go heavy handed on it. It could literally just be a case where like he's somehow his presence at the this could all be an experiment for him as well. Like if he in the future, he's got the scar, he's the Christian Bale or whoever's playing it hasn't become the man from Terminator 2 yet or Terminator 1, right? And he's still maybe 10 years off from that, right? In 10 years from now, he's like, okay, I need to prove that I'm not just sending people back to their death. And I need to get away from everybody because Skynet thinks I'm dead. So that scene you see at the beginning is him in the future, and then he sends himself back 10 years so that he can just disappear.
So is there two John Connors then?
Oh crap, I didn't think of that.
We've got double John Connor now.
I don't know. Don't overthink it. Imagine that's literally what Christopher Nolan, what the protagonist, no, what the female scientist says in Tenet. She says, don't think about it. Don't think about it too much. Which is such a cop out. You just have a line where something like that, where John Connor, or where Kyle says, "This isn't your first time, is it? You've done this before," or something like that. I always said. One of the great missed opportunities of Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, was that when I think what's the woman's name? Oh my god,
Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt says to Tom Cruise something along the lines of like, we've done this before, haven't we, or something like that, and then I always thought he should have said, we've been doing this for 1,000 years, some line like that, where it's just, oh my god, this guy has been like, to get to this victory, it's taken this sacrifice, this much time, something mind-blowing like that. And I think you could do that with this, where it's, you've done this before, haven't you? And he just doesn't answer, and he disappears. He just walks away, and it's like the last time they see each other for a while, and they'll reunite in another mission. But he has to leave for the good of his child, or something like that, or for his daughter, or something like that, who is yet to be born. And he's walking away. Skynet doesn't know I was here. They'll never know I was here. You got to keep the secret. I'm trusting you. And
right,
and
so he's
and it's for your family too, Kyle, because this is your granddaughter. Like like something like that, where it's like, all these implications. You don't have to say it out loud, but the implications are there, and the audience can go away thinking, is he from the future, like from another future? Oh my god, like, new franchise, new spin on the franchise.
Yeah. I think there's a chance it might overcomplicate it, because you can't not think about that.
It's a great idea, Brad.
You you can't have two John Connors and then not say anything about it. And then I like the idea that he seems clairvoyant throughout.
Yeah, okay.
And then you're like, how do you know this? And then we reveal he has been time traveling. But we need to figure out why and how.
There's one moment, you know how you do it? Just one moment where like there's something going to happen, and he pulls Kyle like to the side, and a bullet just flies past him or something. And it's just, or something falls, like, and it's just and Kyle is just like, what the hell just happened? How did you know that? And then later on something happens, and it's like, that's why they're not worried. They're not trying to kill this robot, because John, like, the mission isn't to kill it. The mission is just to, if you've ever played Elden Ring or Bloodborne or Dark Souls or anything, at a certain point you realize it's not about killing everything on the map. Half the time it's just about getting around them, because you've done it so many times. I don't have to kill it. I can just run around it, and this for him is something he's done before. And yeah, okay, fine, we work it out later. But if that's your biggest plot hole, I don't think that's as big a plot hole as half the stuff in the other Terminator movies.
So we're going to have a moment where we figure out this is the older John Connor.
Oh no,
We need
I
to
would
have
have
like
it just at the end, like right at the end, where it's
yeah. So
just
we need that to be. We need to figure out how to pay that off. Is there another Connor, a younger version of him that's been running the rebellion? Are we? I don't know. I think it muddies it. I think it gets really muddy because it's like, what are they do? It takes away from like the importance of Kyle Reese helping him.
didn't
Whereas if he was clairvoyant the whole time, like he
didn't
didn't need that.
didn't Arnold Schwarzenegger say he killed John Connor in the future, and maybe yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it?
Because
No,
he wouldn't be able to travel back because he'd be
no,
dead.
it doesn't make sense. Okay, okay.
Well,
That's
I
about
think
20 minutes of the episode we can cut.
I know we just cut that out, get some scissors in there. But I think having going to this closed loop of him sending him back, I think could be interesting. Look at Prey, it wasn't that complicated. Look at Terminator 1, it wasn't that complicated. It was
I
like,
know.
here you
The
go.
temptation with Terminator is let's make it just a little bit complicated, and then it does screw it. Then you are right. We need to keep it simple. This is Mad Max Fury Road. It's Prey. It's not trying to
Mm.
be anything more
So
than
the twist
escaping.
is
Yeah,
John has lost his faith and he thinks the future's changed so much that they're not going to win. It turns out the future was when you get to the end, the future's exactly what it was always meant to be, and he's in the position where he has to send Kyle Reese back in time. So the flip is the fact that yes, you have some relative control, but fate itself is a straight line, and although you can influence this thing, you can't think that you're not going to go somewhere you know is already a fact. So it's because it's happened in your past. Do you know what I mean? There is that some of it is locked in because it happened. So again, I don't think we should push too hard on that. It's like, oh look, he's gone all full circle and got back to the point where he sends him back. Oh, his faith's restored, kind of
is
thing.
he sending him back at the end of this movie?
Why not?
Well, my only problem is it's not. He's not of age, is he? Or do you make him of age? Do you?
We could make him of age, or he could. What if it's a year? What if they're out there for a year?
And he grows into Michael Biehn.
He becomes Michael P.
See, I feel like Christian Bale is probably the same age in this film. I know this was made in 2009, but
He's
2008.
old. He's about 10 years older, I think, but he would need to be 20 years older at least.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it muddies it a little bit. I think there's going to be disconnect if you want this to feed into Terminator, the first Terminator film. I think you need to be a little clever, like so that there is a like a puzzle piece connect. Like, okay, if you watch The Post, the Spielberg film, the very last shot of The Post is an exact replica of the opening shot of All the President's Men. It's the the security guard in the Watergate hotel, and I love that because you can literally splice these two films together back to back, and it just plays out perfectly, as one long exploration. You can do the same with Rogue One and A New Hope, and I love that as well. They had to resort to CGI in order to make that happen, but I wonder, is there a way in which they've discovered the tech and it's like now is not like we're not ready for this yet, it's going to take a while, and you do some sort of transition where Anton Yelkin's character walks, past the camera, and when the camera turns around, it's now CGI Michael Biehn, it's CGI, everybody's older, more mature, and it's like, are you ready? Okay, and it's like you've got one shot at this, and the lightning just kind of takes over, and it just fades to white, and
Yeah, I mean,
you end it. Maybe you do it in a like they're in that location, like that set where. The very first shot of Terminator 1,
yeah,
Los Angeles at night, and it's the exact same kind of replica, like a burnt out car instead of a police car or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it is. And then, Or it's the alleyway, isn't it? You have the alleyway, like it's ruins,
Yeah, I love
ruins
the idea of
buildings,
dovetailing in. Totally love it.
and it's like this wonderful transition where you can literally splice them together,
Yeah,
and
brilliant.
it works perfectly.
I
Something
think
like that, I'd be happy with.
I think having the I think maybe have him slightly older and have it a year,
Mm.
and he grows into Michael Bain inside the film. It doesn't become him, it's a recasting. Like it doesn't have to be exactly the same. But I think
Yeah, true. Okay, true.
with the end, if the Terminator sent a robot back, they need to go quick, get someone in there and send them back. Otherwise, we're gonna Martin McFly over here.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They can't wait. They can't wait, can they, to figure out how to use it? So I think the dovetailing into the shot is brilliant. I loved seeing that in Rogue One. I really did. So I think,
I want to
yeah, I
see. I
think
want to see the exact. I want a moment where I can splice these two films together at
so.
the
We
end.
do. We don't have Anton Yelchin. Then we have Michael Biehn
I
look
think
alike.
we're making this now, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Although we can't, because everyone will just accuse us of doing Prey.
Yeah, it's not going to be Prey. It's totally not going to be Prey. It'll be a version of a survival horror. So let's say it's not Yelchin then. If we're making it now, we're going to get a Michael Biehn,
You
a
know,
very close replica of Michael Biehn, and
Christian
we're going
Bale.
to do.
Like, I mean, like, I mean, in a weird way, like they did cast
um,
Christian Bale well. Actually, it's just
yeah.
unfortunate that he is tied up with the other biggest franchise of all time.
Hmm.
Um,
So I think we've about nailed it. Let me run through what we did.
yeah,
So we open on a big pre to a big war. We get a monologue from John saying he's worried all the excursions into time have changed the future and they're not going to win this war. He's lost his faith, but he's still fighting. They're at a big battle. There's loads of Terminators in this battle. There are loads of soldiers. The soldiers are getting overwhelmed by the Terminators. He's there to capture something. They're there at an enemy base. He captures this signal, this bit of tech, and he sends the details to Kate just before it looks like he's killed. So the rebellion get the resistance, the rebellion. What are they called in this? I forget. Is there a name? The humans
the
get
humans.
the humans get the signal,
Humanity.
so that humanity get the signal. So that sets off the B story of these guys getting prepped, getting everything ready to go and do an assault on the robots. This is going to take like a year or two to get it working. They have to create the right tech. They have to plan it out. They have to practice. So there's, you can imagine a nice beat to a rhythmic sort of B story, sort of progressing towards this attack. On the other side of it, you've got John lost in LA. He did survive it. He's lost his faith. He's not going to return to the rebellion. He says that he's the one that's endangering everyone. He's the one that the machines want. So he decides to live in the scrublands, live in the waste. He meets Kyle Reese. He doesn't say to him, "You're my dad." That would freak him out. But he's just like, fate, fate's weird. I do not like fate. Like, and they become buddies. Maybe he doesn't want to be around him to start with. Maybe he's trying to get rid of him, and then eventually Carl saves him. They become buddies, and they spend about a year out in the scrubs trying to keep away from a rogue T-600 that's walking around. They're setting up traps to see where he is. They can't kill this thing because they don't have any weapons. They're just surviving. Midpoint twist: John shares with him this intel. Oh, look, I used to be a big leader. This is what I was protecting. This is what's going to win the war. And then there won't be any more of this guy. And he's like, and Reese is like, no, that is not what you think it is. That is going to lose the war and the machines will be everywhere. So he's like, okay, we need to get back to the base. So they spend a month or two on the road getting back to the base. The Terminator's still tracking them. Maybe that'd be quite interesting. They get back to the base. Maybe they get some weapons and just kill that thing immediately. that's
It does. It does have to be ironically simple for the soldiers, but you still need someone to die. Like it still has to, but it has to be like we have spent 8 months.
Spent a year of our lives. So in this time, John shared his knowledge as a soldier with Kyle and sort of educated him as a soldier. and they get back to the base. They're about to go, and Carl's like, "No, don't do it! Like you cannot use this thing. It will wipe everyone out. You're going to get there and be completely disabled. We can flip this on them. They're going to expect it's a trap. We can, flip this so it's the traps for them. So keep all this organization, send everyone, and we're going to flip it, and we're going to be able to destroy them." And of course, we'll have the scene of someone going blap and just killing that Terminator that they've been trying to get away from. That'd be great. So then they do the all-out assault. They flip the switch. It's all cool. They basically win what looks like the first big battle of the end of this war, and they discover the temporal displacement equipment, and he has to send him back in time. He volunteers, and that's the end of the film.
I do feel it's a bit rushed. We've discovered this thing. We have a plan now straight away, and Kyle goes in. There is a part of me that feels like you need to almost, if Christian Bale or John Connor is going to be a teacher to Kyle throughout this year, I think he needs to be almost saying something like, at a certain point we're all called, and we all have to answer the call, etc., all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of setting up the idea that someday Kyle is going to have a big job to do, and at the end it's you either have Kyle, like, well, who's going to do this? And Kyle says, because the thing is that the Terminators were going to go back first, so it's they went back as a reaction. We're going to go back sooner to protect Sarah, or we're coming back after, or something like that. But it's them going back to protect Sarah is a reaction. It's not an idea they have. It's a reaction to the fact that somebody else went. So I think in that final showdown, there needs to be this discovery, like something has happened. Like we won, yay, they're gone, and it's like no, something else has happened here. Like they've
sent something.
Yeah, back. Like there was somebody in this room, and now they're gone, and I don't know where they are. And he just disappeared. And
we start to do a dusting.
Yeah, and somebody's figuring
out. Oh yeah, we start to get a bit of a dusting going on. That'd be great.
Somebody's figured out.
Yeah.
Like, where is
it? Like, the timeline's correcting itself. Get in the machine. You're small enough, Kyle. Get in there.
No, but Kyle needs to be the one to step forward and say,
yeah, of course. He's going to be the one.
Every once in a while, someone gets a call. Right,
we'll
son?
have a repeat of the line. Yeah. So, and then he goes in. Or we can we don't even go that far. We can just be like, we've won. Oh my God, what's in it? General, you have to see in here. I think this is temporal displacement equipment. And he just looks at him, and we end. We don't even have to go.
No, you do it. You have to.
You want to dovetail in,
don't you? I want to dovetail, but you have this kind of the moment of victory followed by the panic. Like, no, this was too easy. Something's wrong here. They weren't here. What were they protecting? They weren't protecting this machine. They were protecting what just went through the machine. Something like there's suddenly this urgency ramps up. And then Kyle just says, I'll volunteer. You can't go, John. The whole point is to protect the timeline. There's nobody else that you would trust. And Kyle can spout something that shows, I've been listening to your teaching for the last year. And then as he's going through, you have John say something to him like, goodbye, son. Oh, no, goodbye, dad. Goodbye, dad. And then it's like, Terry Crews is like, I don't think he heard you.
Yeah, like, you shouldn't have said that, John.
No, it's just, I don't think he heard you. It's like, damn it.
Nice. I like this. It's fun. I like the idea of this survival film out there with some random T600. I think it could be fun. So thanks for that, John. That was a nice season finale. I hope you'll come back.
I've got one more thing that's going to blow your mind. One more thing that's going to blow your mind. Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he's obviously the one that goes back, he's undercover in the rebellion, and it's the rebellion in attacking this base have got him into the room.
Oh, so he's infiltrated.
He's an infiltrator. Yeah, but that's what they're describing.
But it's their base. Though,
I don't know. Make it something like where I don't know. They took over the base a while back, but they just don't know what's there. And I don't know the machines. I don't know. You do something. Figure it out. I don't care. Someone figured out in the
Okay,
comments. But
infiltrating
he's
Arnold
infiltrated,
Schwarzenegger.
and then you have him.
Okay.
But
We'll
it's so,
check that.
it would be so obvious. You just see Arnold Schwarzenegger hanging around next to Terry Crews and all that. And it's like, well, he's obviously. Okay, forget that idea.
Okay.
Could you imagine the audience screaming at this?
It's the Terminator.
He's right there. The guy who doesn't talk, who's a different accent to the rest of you.
Okay, on that bombshell, John, I'm going to end it. We've done it. We did it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been the season finale for the Great Hollywood Rewrite with the Script Department. Check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net. We've got a raft of international screenwriters with lots of interesting projects going on over there. We're on social media. You'll find us on all the decent podcast platforms. And we'll keep you updated on what we're going to do with this show next season. Look forward to telling you more about it. Nice one.
I don't think Skynet are hiring. Skydance. Why did I say that? Why is it
Skydance, Skynet?
It's it's close, weird, isn't it? I wonder was the because they own the rights to. That's strange.
That is weird.
That is strange.
Maybe Skydance is self-aware.
I don't think Skydance is hiring me anytime soon. Happy Christmas, everybody.